Story 1. Becoming responsible, paying bills, helping my mother with everyday tasks, contributing to the upkeep of the home, and taking charge of my own direction in life. Story 2. Realizing that not everything is someone else's fault is important. Sometimes the blame falls on you, and you must learn from your mistakes to grow. Story 3. Growing up, to me, is when you realize that the idea of growing up is flawed. Paradoxically, this realization allows you to shed the burdens of adulthood and rediscover joy in the things you enjoyed as a child. Story 4. Realizing that none of us are perfect, we all have flaws. Supporting people and helping them overcome their shortcomings is more productive than criticizing them for their imperfections. Story 5. Is there a better way to describe growing up? Emotional regulation involves handling intense emotions with restraint and self-awareness. It means choosing the responsible option for yourself and others and being able to fairly decide which is more important for the situation, instead of making impulsive and harmful choices. Think of those individuals who have a complete meltdown because their sandwich order is taking too long. That's not a mature response. Additionally, personal accountability is crucial. This means being able to admit when you've made a mistake and taking steps to correct it. Patience with others is important, as are communication skills, particularly emotional literacy. You may notice a recurring theme. As an adult, you can pursue anything you desire, but you should not be a giant sulky, emotionally immature person. And here's the less favorable aspect of growing up: the sagging skin on my face. Story 6. It's like leveling up in a video game. The further you progress, the more experience you gain, and you acquire better equipment. Story 7. You don't have to act grown-up anymore, neither for other people nor for yourself. You just do grown-up things because you have to in order to survive. Story 8. Being able to control your emotions and knowing how to be responsible is important. It is essential to see the bigger picture and be ready to make sacrifices. Story 9. Accepting things, having more patience, and being less reactive. Forgiving others and yourself. Cultivating more gratitude for what is going well. Story 10. Stop blaming others or external factors and take charge of your own life. Life isn't fair. Some have it easier while others have it harder. At some point, you must take accountability. Story 11. Realizing the important things in life means appreciating the time you have with others and recognizing the value of the little things. People and relationships are finite and fragile. Story 12. Accepting that you will need to do things you do not want to do in order to facilitate your existence. Also, recognize that some people may have negative intentions. Story 13. Learning from mistakes and growing up means realizing that mistakes are not failures, but opportunities to learn and become stronger. Story 14. To me, growing up means taking responsibility for your actions and their consequences, both significant and minor. It is about becoming self-sufficient and contributing to society. Story 15. I didn't feel grown up until I became a dad. Then I realized that I was doing all the things adults used to do when I was a kid, except I felt scared doing them. I also realized that my parents were probably scared too, and being an adult took on a whole new meaning. Story 16. That everyone is just like you. We are all making it up as we go along. No one has a predetermined grand destiny. Every day, everyone is just trying to get the best out of life and avoid dying one more time. You are born by chance. You live in a world dictated by an endless cycle of chance, circumstances, and partly influenceable outcomes, and die in the same way. Story 17. Being financially responsible for every bill you have, including housing, cell phone, car, and utilities, without relying on anyone to pay for you. Story 18. Learning how to cope with challenges independently is essential. Being self-reliant in managing bills, emotions, and interpersonal situations, including those with family, is crucial. Story 19. Discovering the hard way what is important and what is not. My priorities have changed since graduation, purchasing a first home, and starting a family. I may not always make the right decision, but part of growing up is learning from those experiences. Story 20. Refusing to be sheltered, you must get straight to the point when necessary. You cannot always mask your emotions and opinions about someone. There are times when being honest is essential, even if it might hurt someone's feelings, especially if they need a serious reality check. I eventually had to confront one of the teachers who wanted to change students' perspectives but went about it the wrong way. I had to tell her that she is not a psychiatrist, as she was forcing people to expose personal issues to promote change. I explained that some people are the way they are for a reason, and it's not something she can change. The individual must want to change. Forcing them will only make things worse. I thought I would get in trouble for insubordination because a teenager, was telling an adult what her job is. Story 21. Growing up is realizing that no one actually knows what they are doing, and we are all just faking it with different levels of confidence. Story 22. No more fun. Ignore your feelings. Go to work, do your chores, pay your bills, and try to stay healthy. Story 23. Realizing you are not invincible and suddenly worrying about all those mysterious aches and pains you have ignored for the last 30 years. Story 24. Realizing that, for the most part, we are all just older children using what we have learned along the way to survive, for better or for worse. Story 25. Accepting responsibility and accountability are the two qualities that differentiate an immature person from an adult. Story 26. For me, it's reaching a breaking point, one where there is no help coming, where the only options are to burn out or to keep going. Once you have processed that, a switch flips. Story 27. Due to epilepsy, I have never been allowed to drive. I am 59, and to me, driving is a sign of being an adult. Story 28. The difference between grown-ups and those who have not yet grown up isn't terribly complicated. Non-grown UPS tend to go through life with their symbolic pointer fingers pointing outward, blaming all their troubles on anyone and everything but themselves. They are always the victim, and nothing is really ever their fault. They live in a state of constant self-righteous indignation and denial. True grown-ups go through life with one symbolic pointer finger pointed outward and the other pointed toward themselves. They are aware that life can sometimes be very hard for them through no fault of their own. However, they also know that sometimes they are very much responsible for what's happening to them, and they own it. If you can't own your role in what's going on in your life and always see yourself as a victim, it's impossible to change it. If you can't change it, you can't ever expect to grow up entirely. Playing the victim is a game for children, a game that goes nowhere and keeps them behaving like children forever. Story 29. For me, it means taking on the responsibility of being an adult. I didn't understand what growing up truly meant back then, so I don't have any savings. I remember back in 2016, I could earn decent money, but I didn't think about saving for the future, perhaps because my mindset wasn't fully mature at that time. To future adults who come across this post and my comment, it's okay to enjoy life, especially when you start earning your own money. Just don't overdo it. That's a simple piece of advice from someone who has experienced this mistake. Story 30. I believe it means you are more realistic with your time. You only have 24 hours in a day. You eliminate trivial tasks and individuals who do not contribute any value. Story 31. For me, it happened once again. I turned to a friend, someone who understands and sees through the master plan. But everybody is gone, and I have been here for too long. To face this on my own, well, I guess this is growing up. Story 32. Realizing that the way your life turns out is solely up to you. Your parents are not here to save you anymore. It's you against the world, and if you don't work hard to make it what you want, it will turn out poorly, and you'll have only yourself to blame. Story 33. This idea that adults do not know what they are doing and are just pretending to be adults is frustrating. I am in my 40s and know exactly who I am and what I want to achieve. I have teenagers that I am raising, and we talk every day. I enjoy developing them and helping them succeed. I also take care of my mother, who is getting older. My siblings come to me for advice. I am an adult, and it is not pretend. Story 34. Maturity is the ability to hold an opinion in one's mind until sufficient information is provided, instead of making a snap decision based on impulsive feelings. Story 35. For me, it was becoming a homeowner. It's the first time in life when you start to feel truly independent, as you are now responsible for not only paying for the roof over your head but also for all the maintenance and upkeep. Story 36. Growing up means realizing that you have to be your own safety net. It is about making peace with the past, supporting yourself, and learning that not everything requires a reaction. Sometimes, silence is growth as well. Story 37. Every time you look around for an adult to take care of something, it ends up being you. A flat tire, a broken refrigerator, a leak on the front porch, or dealing with vomiting and diarrhea from food poisoning. The person getting the trash can buy the toilet and the mop later is you. If you have a nail stuck in your heel, guess who's prying it out with a claw hammer and driving you to urgent care? You. That healthcare bill? It's yours. These responsibilities can just happen to someone who is not yet an adult. And it's tragic. That's why we refer to it as the death of childhood. However, when you stop looking around and realize that the help is you, that's what it means to be an adult. Story 38. Learning how to take care of yourself, earn a living, and interact with society. Story 39. Being able to talk yourself down is essential. My parents were emotionally absent, so I wasn't given the right tools to deal with my emotions. Many parents are emotionally distant, but I believe the true mark of a well-adjusted adult is the willingness to continue learning how to develop healthy thought patterns and show grace to oneself. I moved out nearly a decade ago, and I'm still learning. However, I feel more like an adult now than ever. For kids stuck in similar situations, you are a whole person. No one can take away your individuality or your freedom of emotional expression. It will get easier. Story 40. The first time I realized I was getting older was when people I attended school with started passing away in their 20s. It made me understand that anything can happen to anyone, and you cannot truly prevent it. Story 41. To me, a major point of becoming an adult is realizing there is no adult in the room. Everyone is just making it up as they go along. Story 42. For me, growing up isn't just about getting older. It's realizing that nobody really has life figured out, including the adults you looked up to as a child. It's learning to make peace with uncertainty, taking responsibility for your choices, and understanding that healing isn't a straight line. It's also when you start craving naps instead of avoiding them. Story 43. Having total responsibility for living expenses and living in your own home or apartment. One of my children once claimed they were grown up, and I asked if they had ever paid rent, a bill, or purchased groceries. They said no. We then looked at each other silently for a few seconds, and I raised an eyebrow. They never repeated it. Story 44. Accepting responsibility and, importantly, being able to put aside emotion and behave rationally and logically is essential. Unfortunately, most people remain incredibly immature, despite their biological age. Story 45. Growing up is a mental state in which you leave childish and immature tendencies behind. You begin to take responsibility by cleaning up messes, even if they are not yours, working to pay bills, and being accountable for yourself and your mistakes. Ultimately, it involves gaining integrity. Story 46. For me, growing up means taking responsibility for your own actions and your own care. If you make a mistake, you own up to it. If you're in the wrong, you take responsibility. You ensure that you can take care of yourself and do not have to rely on others just to exist. Earn your own money, pay your own rent or mortgage, and feed yourself. Growing up does not mean that you should stop enjoying certain kinds of entertainment, dress a certain way, or act in a specific manner. That is a viewpoint held by vain individuals who want to control how others behave. Story 47. Being forced to accept rules imposed by others and receiving nothing of what you were promised as a child, while continuing to suffer slowly. Story 48. Becoming boring is like those people you meet who have nothing interesting to talk about, no sense of humor, and are serious all the time, dressed in undifferentiated ways. They are defined by what they do and nothing else. Accountant, parent, or whatever they are. They talk about the news or their work, but that's it. There is only small talk, nothing deep or actually interesting. No quirky hobbies or interests, just what is part of the norm. I pay the bills and take care of my family, but otherwise I refuse to grow up. Interesting hobbies and jokes are forever. Story 49. Hopefully, find a woman so you can work a challenging job to have her. Play every day. Homelessness is real. And what everyone else has said. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.